Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. But if you are unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's okay. We do record the show every week and it is then posted to our website. And I'll show you at the end of today's show where you can see, where you can access all of our recordings. Sorry. Both the live show and our archives are free and open to anyone to watch. So please do share with your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, anyone who you think may be interested in any of the topics that we have on the show. The Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for all libraries in the state of Nebraska. So we have quite a variety of things on our show. Topics for schools, K-12, college and universities, public libraries. We've had things on for museums, correctional facilities, pretty much all across the board. The only really criteria for our show, it has something to do with libraries. And that's a pretty broad definition there. Something libraries are doing, something we think they could be doing, services and products that we think may be of interest to you. Sometimes there are book reviews on the show, web tours, little mini training sessions, demos of services and products. It's a whole bunch of things here. On NCompass Live, we do sometimes have presentations from Nebraska Library Commission staff who present on things we offer here in the state, but we also bring in guest speakers, as we have this morning. On the line with us is Megan Boggs, who is from our Seward Memorial Library, just a little west of here, down I-80. And she is going to talk to us about Excel for librarians, some cool tips and tricks and things that she can that you can use Excel for in your library. So I will just hand over to you, Megan, to take it away.
Right. Very good, thank you. And since this computer that I'm going to be presenting with today actually does not have Excel installed, we're going to call this Spreadsheets for librarians. A little more general.
No problem. For any of you who weren't, where we did have Megan did have technical problems. Her computer just died on her previous one that she was using. So we've had a little 15-minute delay here while she set up another one, but it's a whole new machine. So we'll go with it, no problem.
Yeah, we're just gonna roll. And really, most of the things that I was going to show you anyway aren't necessarily Excel specific. They can be used with any spreadsheet, and so I don't think this will be too much of an issue. I think I will. Everybody see my presentation there? Great. The first thing I just want to talk about are some of the uses of spreadsheets in libraries. I've been working in libraries for over 15 years, and while I am definitely not an expert in spreadsheets, I do use them nearly every day. And I don't think that you need to be an expert in spreadsheets to work at a library. I think having the basic knowledge and maybe a few tips and tricks up your sleeve can really just help you to improve your efficiency and things like that. Obviously, budgets are a big use of spreadsheets in libraries. I don't have an example that I'm going to show you today of a budget. Our director of our library does most of the budgeting, and so I don't do a lot of that personally. But obviously, they're one of the things that spreadsheets are kind of built for, is to work with budgets and numbers and math and things like that and make all those processes easier. So if you aren't using spreadsheets to do your library budgeting, I would say that would be the way to go. Another big use that we have in our library for spreadsheets is for all of our program registrations. Story times, after school programs, summer registrations. We do a lot with spreadsheets to just help keep all of that information organized. And I'm just going to show you a quick example here of our summer registration. Now, I did take out all of the names and phone numbers and email addresses for privacy reasons, but you can kind of see how we have this set up. Let me actually try to zoom out a little bit so you can see this, the full Full screen here. Being a little pokey. Hopefully this computer doesn't die on me. Okay.
Everybody has their fingers crossed, definitely.
Yes. So when we do summer registrations, we have several children who register for these, and using spreadsheets is a great way to just keep all of that information organized. As you can see in the spreadsheet, we use it to track their names, their grades, all of their emergency contact information. And then the part of the spreadsheet here with the information that I didn't erase, you can see this is the listing of the programs that we did. We had some movies, we had The Magician, we had Omaha Zoo, and we just tracked what each child wanted to be registered for by putting a 1 in these columns. And that way, this bright yellow row here shows us our totals. So we can easily, at a glance, see, okay, there are 130 children signed up to come to the program that Dr. Jerkin is presenting. And so it's just a nice way to keep everything organized. So using Excel for registrations has been awesome in our library. Another way that we use spreadsheets is for all of our reports and our statistics. Our library software, we use Apollo by Biblionics, and they have a nice reports area where we can go in and set what we want, and then it all downloads as spreadsheets. And so just to give you a quick example of what one of those looks like, I just ran a quick report. Oh, maybe. See if I can get in here quick. No. There it goes.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties upon technical difficulties.
We're all good, no problem.
All right, so this spreadsheet that will be coming up here is just an example of a report that we could run. This one, it happens to be all of the materials that we've added to our collection after August 1st. And what we love about the reports being in spreadsheets is that we can easily sort them then. Right now, they happen to be sorted by shelf location, but maybe we want to sort them by title, or maybe by date added, or some other option. And so having all of our reports and spreadsheets allows us to gain that information quickly and also work with it more easily and efficiently. Another thing that I use quite a bit in my daily job at the library is a spreadsheet just for helping me in my daily organization and planning. One of my tasks at the library is that I make posters and graphics for all of our upcoming events, and I run our website. And we happen to have a lot going on between now and the end of October because we're celebrating our 15th anniversary of our new building. And so I had all of these events that I needed to make posters for and website graphics and do the social media for. And so I just made a fast little spreadsheet with the date of the program, the title of the program, and then columns where I could just go through and I can mark, okay, have I made the poster for this one? Have I done the display board for this one? Have I made the website graphic? And so it's a nice way to just organize all my thoughts, my work processes, without having to write everything out on paper. So that's another use for spreadsheets. And the last one that I want to point out is using spreadsheets for form and survey results. Now, in the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the difference between Excel and Google Sheets. And this is one of them, is that if you use Google Sheets, you can also use it in conjunction with Google Forms. And Google Forms is a great tool for either sending out quick surveys, or you could even use it to actually collect your registrations for programs. And because it connects with Google Sheets, automatically all of your results from those surveys will get compiled into a spreadsheet. You don't have to manually type in any information. It's a huge time saver. And so I use that quite a bit. Just as a quick example here, we did a survey a while back amongst Nebraska librarians, just asking them, at your libraries, what kind of patron information do you collect? Do you collect addresses, emails? Do you take a photo of your patrons? Do you ask for their driver's license number, and those types of information? And we did all of that through a Google form, and then all of the information was automatically compiled into a spreadsheet. And we asked them, like, do you always ask for this information? Is this information optional? Do you never ask for it? Or may you consider asking for it in the future? And so all of the results come through with an automatic timestamp, so you know when that person filled out the survey. And then all of the results come through. And then at the top, I just did some little calculations so we could easily see out of the 152 responses what the results were. So using it to help you organize your survey results. Maybe you had a workshop at your library and you wanted to send out a survey to the attendees saying, you know, how was the workshop, and did you, learn things? Was the presenter prepared? Those kinds of questions. You could do that and have all the results in a spreadsheet, so it's easy to sort through and get your results. And the other wonderful thing about spreadsheets is after you have the information, I was able to take some of that, and in Excel, they have wonderful quick little charts that you can do based on the data that's in the spreadsheet. And so now, just at a visual glance, I can get the results of my survey. All right. So
we've done that here at the Library Commission for various events. We do have our own in-house registration system, as those of you attending NCompass Live know for this, but for other things we've used it, and I love that connection of a survey or the registration popping right into a spreadsheet that then I can just work with, and it's, once you get it set up, it just does it all behind the scenes just beautifully. Like magic.
We used to have all of our registrations come through as individual emails, and then you'd have to type that information or copy and paste it into a spreadsheet. And
oh, wow.
Way simpler. So just moving on then a little bit about the difference between Excel and Google Sheets for your spreadsheet needs. Now, Excel is kind of the gold standard. It is what most people use. I would say probably most libraries do have Microsoft Office installed on your computers, and so you've got access to Excel. It is a wonderful program, and it has tons of tools and lots of advanced functionality. However, you don't always need all of that advanced functionality, especially in a library setting. Maybe if we were accountants or something like that, worked with a lot of stocks and bonds, we might want more advanced functionality. But it does have it if it's there. It also has those great ways to create the charts and graphs that are based upon the data in the spreadsheets. And it's a Microsoft product, so you're probably familiar with the layout of where things are, the typical Microsoft menus and the ribbon across the top. So it's a good program as far as that goes. Now, Google, on the other hand, also has a spreadsheet program. Number one, it's free. We all love free stuff. And so you can just set up a free Google account, and then you have access to using their spreadsheet program. And like in this situation where I happen to be using a computer that does not have Microsoft Office installed on it, this is a great alternative when you don't have access to Excel. Plus, it is completely compatible with Excel. You can upload an Excel spreadsheet into Google and work with it there. So you don't have to worry too much about compatibility issues. You can also take a Google Sheet and download it as an Excel document and use it both ways. And as I mentioned in the last slide, it seamlessly connects with Google Forms. So you can use Google Forms to take your surveys or your registrations, and it will automatically dump all of that information into a spreadsheet for you. Other great things about Google Sheets is that it's very easy to share and collaborate with all of the Google either sheets or documents, and that they make that process very simple as long as the other person also has a Google account, which most people probably have one by now. And the other thing is that Google Sheets is accessible by any computer or any device that has internet. So you don't have to worry. Does this computer I'm using have Excel? Does it have Microsoft Office? It doesn't matter as long as it can get the internet. So those are some of the benefits. And so we use both tools pretty much equally at our library. I have used the Google Sheets option a lot more for the registrations and the things like that, but we still use Excel for all of our budgeting. So both tools have their advantages. Both tools work really well. All right. Okay, so now we're just going to move on into some of the tips and tricks for using spreadsheets. Some of these you may already know, but these are the ones that I just kind of picked out. Like, these are things that I use a lot when I'm working with my spreadsheets, and if you don't know them, you definitely should. So the first thing is freezing panes. Let's just say that you have a spreadsheet that has lots of data. It's very long. You are going to be doing a lot of scrolling back and forth, and it becomes an issue of, oh, I don't remember which column this is to be able to put my data in there. So I'm just going to get out of full screen mode here real quick and switch over to that summer registration spreadsheet that I was showing you earlier, just as an example here. So I've got all of these things here in row 2 for the name and the different programs. But we had several children sign up, and see what happens when I scroll is that I can no longer see that row number 2, and so I can't remember, oh, now I'm entering another registration, and I don't know which column was for the magician, which column was for the movie, and so I don't know which one to put the number 1 in without scrolling back up and looking. So this is where freezing panes really comes in handy. There are lots of different options that you can have for it. You can freeze the first row, the first column, the first several rows or columns, so that they don't move when you scroll up and down. So for this one, I would want to freeze actually the top 3 rows because I want to keep my totals from moving as well. So I'm just going to click on row 3 there. And let's see here, I'm going to go in Google Sheets, it happens to be under View. In Excel, it is also on the View tab of the ribbon. And in Google here, it just goes by Freeze. In Excel, it actually says Freeze Panes. But I will tell it to freeze up to the current row 3. And so now those top 3 rows are frozen, and so when I scroll, you can see that everything below is moving as I scroll, but the ones that I want to hold still are holding still. It just makes it so much easier to work with spreadsheets. You can also freeze columns if you need to when you're scrolling left and right. So it's just a very handy tool. Okay. Next tip is sorting. Sorting is huge with spreadsheets, and it's one of the main reasons actually why I use spreadsheets for a lot of things, because I just want to be able to quickly sort. And There are lots of sorting options. You can sort by one variable or several variables, but it makes it really easy. So just to give you another example on that, I'll switch back to this. So let's just say for this one, we had this special drum program that you can see has a different highlighted color there on that column. This one was a little bit unique because it was the first program that we actually had to ask for a payment from participants. All of our other programs were free, but this was a special Nebraska Arts Council program. And so if I wanted to resort this spreadsheet so that I could easily see which people were all signed up for the drum program, then I could highlight all of these registrations. I can get down to the bottom here. Right. We had a lot of kids signed up. Okay, I think we're getting there. Great. So now that those are all highlighted, so that tells the spreadsheet this is the group of information or the set of data that I'm going to be working with. Then I'm going to go up to data here and tell it to sort. Now you can sort it by some of the pre-selections that they have made there, but I usually go to sort range so that I can select what I want. And in this case, I'm going to be sorting by column AA, which is the drum column. And you can do it in alphabetical or reverse alphabetical, ascending or descending. And so I'm just going to keep it as it is and click on sort. And now you can see that all of the number ones have moved up to the top in the drum column. And so I could just take those first, I don't know, 25 or so and erase all the rest from my spreadsheet and just find out who only those participants who are signed up for the drum program were. So sorting is fantastic. I'm going to give you one more example here with this one about the materials added. I had said that it had been sorted by shelf location. Let's resort this maybe by title this time. I'm just going to get rid of row number 1. We don't really need it at this point. It's going to let me. Oh, I think I might be in a view only mode, perhaps. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm just going to get rid of row number 1. It's one I don't really need at this point. Loading. That's one of the only downsides that I've found to Google Sheets is that it does take it a little while, especially depending on your internet connection, to load all of the data because you're not working with a program that is actually installed on your computer. Everything's in the cloud. All right, we'll delete this row. And here's one other quick tip. If you want to select an entire spreadsheet, you can click on this little square that is above number 1 and to the left of the A, and it will quickly select your entire spreadsheet. You don't have to drag across. And now that I have it selected, I'm going to go back to data. I'm going to do my sort range here. And this time, I'm going to click the box that says my data has a header row. And that way, instead of it showing column A, column B, column C, it's going to show shelf location, call number, title, and all of the actual headings there. And also then when it sorts, it's not going to sort those headings along with everything else. It's going to keep those headings separate as I sort. So I'm going to sort by title. I'm going to click on sort. And now it will rearrange it. And you can see now it's got the numbers first, and then A, B, C, and so on in the title category. So sorting is something that we use all the time in spreadsheets. Next one is adding rows and columns. You've probably had the experience before of needing to add a row or a column, and it works pretty easily. I'm going to just see here, the one that I have open. I'm going to start a new spreadsheet real quick. So I've got a blank one to work with. Let's say that you have been adding some data into a spreadsheet. Quick example here. Once it loads. All right. I'm just going to put a few numbers into this spreadsheet. We'll do one. Still working. All right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. All right. I need to add another column to make room for a number 5 column. Whenever you're adding columns, you want to click on the cell that is just to the right of where you want the new column to be. Now in Excel, you can right-click on the column. You can do it in Google as well, and you can either insert one left or insert one right. Now in Excel, it doesn't give you the option of inserting either to the left or the right. It's always just going to go to the left. It just has the option of insert. So I'm going to click insert one left, and now I've got a blank column there where I can make the number 5. And the same thing goes with rows. If you need to add some rows here, A, B, D, E. Oh, I need to add a row C. You can right click on row 4 there and say insert one above. And now you've got a blank row there where you can add in the missing information. Now that works really well, but let's say you have to add several rows or several columns. That can get a little bit tedious having to right click, insert, right click, insert, right click, insert. And so one little tip is, let's say you need to insert 3 columns, then highlight across 3 columns, and then when you right click, it'll say insert 3 because you highlighted 3. And so that's a fast little time saver to be able to quickly add multiple rows or multiple columns. So it's just a matter of highlighting as many columns or highlighting as many rows as you need to before you right click. And you can right click anywhere. And then it'll say insert 8 or insert 5 or however many you've highlighted. That's another little tip. Okay, the fill handle. This is my favorite little shortcut in Excel. I love the fill handle because it's such a time saver. And that's what spreadsheets should be good for, is saving time. So let me go to my untitled spreadsheet here. And I'm just going to delete everything very quickly. All right. So the fill handle, whenever you are moving around on spreadsheets, whichever cell you click on, and the cell is what we call those little boxes where a column and a row intersect. Whenever you click on a certain cell, that becomes the highlighted or active cell. And in the bottom right-hand corner of the active cell, there's a little square. And that little square is the fill handle. And so let's just say I'm going down this column C and I'm making some numbers. And you can kind of see that I've got a pattern going here, 5, 10, 15. And so I'm going to highlight those 3 cells. And now this fill handle, that little square in the bottom right, I'm going to put my mouse on it. You can see when I do that, I've got a nice black cross or plus sign there. And now I'm going to click on that fill handle, and I'm going to continue dragging down as far as I want. And when I let go, look what it did. It just automatically filled in the information without me having to type it in, and it kept the pattern going that I had started. It's so smart. And you can do this not just with numbers, but you can do it with all kinds of things. So let's say that you were making a spreadsheet. Let me quickly delete this information. Let's say you were doing a spreadsheet where you needed to have, oh, I forgot I had caps lock on. You needed to have the months of the year going across the first row. Well, I started the months of the year. I highlighted those two cells. And the cool thing about the fill handle is you can move it across a row or up and down a column. And so this time I'm going to drag it to the right, and then I'll let go. And it filled in the months of the year without me having to do any extra typing, because it knew what I was starting to do and it just did it for me. You can do the same thing with caps lock. Let's do days of the week here. There you go. It knows what to do, and you can just keep dragging it down. Once it knows the pattern, it can figure it out. 2, 4, 6, 8. Got the start of a pattern, and use that fill handle to just keep it going. So the fill handle can be such a wonderful little time saver, and if you never knew about it or no one ever showed you, maybe you just had no idea it existed. Fill handle, love it.
Yeah, that one,
okay.
That is very slick. Yeah, actually. I have used the fill before, but only to repeat the same thing down the column. Like I'm doing things about different libraries in different states, and I wanted, these are all the ones that are Nebraska, then I need Nebraska over and over again, or I need Iowa over and over and over again. So I've had to do, yeah, when you just do one, yeah. But I didn't know about the pattern. That is
yes.
magic, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. You can just have it fill the exact same thing over and over again. Right, you're trying to
do something repetitive that needs to be everywhere, yeah.
Yes, yes. You don't have to do copy and paste. You can just do the fill handle if they're in it.
That I think, and then I don't know if I did it. I think I found it by accident. You know, I clicked somewhere, I saw it do it, and I was like, oh, I can use that. Yeah. But this pattern learning is. By accident. Yes. Don't be afraid to click things. It's okay. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So next little fun tip is display text in multiple lines. You may have had this happen before, where you're working on a spreadsheet and you know, you want sorry. I was trying to turn off caps lock. There we go. You wanted someone's first name, and then you wanted their last name. But, oh, what you really wanted was, you didn't want those separated into two separate cells. You actually wanted them all in the same cell, but you just wanted them one on top of the other. And so there are a couple of different ways that you can get that effect to happen, where you keep two separate lines, but they're contained within the same cell. And one of the easiest ways is, as you are typing in the information, so first name, before I type in last name, I'm going to press Alt and Enter, and then I'm going to type in last name. And you can see now what that has done is, where I hit Alt Enter, that was like the line break, and it sent last name down a line, but it kept it all within the same cell. Whereas if I had typed in first name, regular Enter, it sends me down to the next cell. So doing the little trick of holding down the Alt key as you're pressing Enter will keep it within the same cell. And sometimes that's just kind of a nice thing. It might be because you're trying to keep the width of your column down, and so you needed to kind of wrap your text there, or maybe just some other reason that you wanted to keep that all contained within the same cell. So for another example here, let's just say I needed to have a column where I put something like description of transaction. And then the next thing, I needed to have a column for my balance. Well, you can see that because of the width of the cell, my description of transaction there is getting cut off. Now, I can go up here to my column headings. I can go on the line right in between, and I can make that column wider if I want to. But maybe I'm trying to conserve my width here, and I don't want that to happen. And so here's an example where I might want to just go back in here and do the Alt-Enter to throw the word transaction down onto the next line. Another way of doing this, however, is the spreadsheets have a little wrap text tool that you can use. I don't know, let's try here. Yep, it's under Format in Google Sheets, and it's under Text Wrapping, and you just go to Wrap. And now if I make this smaller, it will just automatically wrap that word transaction down to the next line, yet keeping it within the same cell. Now on the Excel spreadsheets, the Alt-Enter works the exact same. To find the text wrapping tool, you do have to go to Format, and then you have to choose Format Cells, and there's an Alignment tab where you can find the text wrapping tool. The text wrapping tool is awesome, especially if you just want to like highlight a whole row or a whole column and say just wrap all of this. So that's nice. The only problem with it is sometimes it doesn't wrap where I want it to wrap, and that's why I sometimes use that Alt-Enter so I can send it to the next line exactly where I want to. So that's just another little tip on displaying text. And also, speaking of text and also formatting text, adjusting the text orientation can be really helpful as well. For example, back in our summer registration spreadsheet, we had a lot of programs, and you can see that I made the text orientation on all of those program titles go vertically up and down, just so that those columns didn't have to be so wide and we wouldn't have to do so much left and right scrolling to find what we were looking for. I did the same thing with grade because I knew all we were going to be putting in that column would be a single number. And same thing with their library cards. Most of those at our library are fairly short, and so and same thing with photos. I knew it was just going to be a yes or no answer if they gave us a photo release or not. So keeping those columns smaller was really helpful. So back to my practice spreadsheet here. If I wanted, let's see here, I'll just do September, to have the text go vertically, you're going to look on your tools for this capital A that's kind of going up at an angle with an arrow, and that's your text rotation tool. It only looks slightly different in Excel. In Excel, instead of a capital A, it's a lowercase a and b. Otherwise, it looks the exact same as this. And you can also find it under Format. But the text rotation tool, here's where you can maybe just make it go at a slight angle, or like I did on that other one, I had it go straight up and down. And that way I could make the column a little bit skinnier and not take up as much space in my spreadsheet. So adjusting your text orientation just can be a nice space saver. And let's see what's next here. All right, customizing your worksheet tabs. A lot of the spreadsheets that we work with might only have one tab, but Sometimes there's lots of information that's related, and so you want to keep it all in one file or one workbook, but just have multiple sheets to break it down. And so in that situation, it's nice to actually rename the tabs and maybe even change their colors, just so that you can more easily find what you're looking for, instead of it just being, oh yeah, I know that's on sheet 1 and that's on sheet 3. Might as well rename it something. So back to our summer registration, we had 2 tabs going. One of them was for all of our school age programs, and then the other tab was for our story time or preschool age programs. And so dividing it up like that just helped us out a lot. So how we do that, back on our practice sheet here, is if you want to add another sheet to a spreadsheet, there's just a little plus tool down in the bottom left. You can click on that and it will add a brand new sheet. And you can add as many as you want. You know, maybe for budgeting purposes, you have a sheet for each month in the year. You can really be flexible with that. And once you have the sheets added, then this is where you'd want to customize them a little bit. So there's a little arrow on each tab, and you can click on that, and a menu will come up, and like one of them is to rename it, one of the options in the menu. So I'm going to call this test sheet, and then I could go ahead and rename the other one. I'll call this one budget, and so on. So you can also, in here, you can change the sheet color. If you are a visual person and you just like to say, oh yeah, all I have to do is click on the yellow tab, or all I have to do is click on the red tab, then maybe adding a colored line to each one of your tabs is helpful. You know, I like the binders with the color-coded tabs that I can flip to. It's kind of similar. You can also rearrange the order of these tabs. If I decided that it made more sense to have my budget tab listed first, all I have to do is click and drag it, and now it's listed first. So it's really flexible, and customizing those will make things a little bit clearer, less confusing, more organized. All right, moving on, the bottom status bar. Boy, I haven't worked with this one as much in Google Sheets, so I'll be finding out if it has the same things that Excel has. But what I'm talking about with the bottom status bar is along the very bottom of the spreadsheet, there's, in Excel, it's a gray bar, and it will show you things like if you highlight a certain area, it will automatically sum up those numbers in that range of cells and give you what the total is. It'll tell you how many things you have selected, maybe what an average is. And so that can be kind of helpful. So let me look at my test sheet here, and I'm just going to highlight a range of cells, and sure enough, it's, Google Sheets has it as well. So it's in the same line as our worksheet tabs, but it's over to the right-hand side, and with the numbers that I happen to have selected, it's telling me that the sum of those numbers is 130. How quick and easy that is, rather than me having to either get out a calculator or even having to enter in a formula on the spreadsheet to add those numbers. I can just quick do a highlighting of them and see down there what that is. Now, if I click on this, I can also see that the average of those numbers is 13. I have 10 numbers selected. The highest number is 22 and the lowest number is 4. So lots of things that I can quickly find out at a glance without having to run any formulas or any functions. Now that works really well with numbers. If you are working with words instead, it's not going to give you quite as many options, but it will tell me when I have those highlighted that I highlighted 9 words. So it just tells me down there, count 9. So let me do another one, count 3. So the bottom status bar is somewhere where you should just know to kind of glance down there sometimes, and it can be helpful to give you quick statistics of things within your spreadsheets. I could even highlight the whole thing here, and the grand sum of all the numbers in my spreadsheet is 306. There were 17 numbers, a total of 64 cells with items in them. So lots of cool statistics that you can find at a glance. All right. Hold on. No. All right. So next is printing options. When you are printing a spreadsheet, you will have lots of different options. The ones that you will see in Google Sheets is not quite as much as you might see in Excel. But where you're going to find these printing options is if you go to page layout and page setup. Printing spreadsheets can be kind of tricky sometimes because maybe it's a really long spreadsheet or a really wide spreadsheet. But this is why it's good to know where all the different printing options are so that you can change things like page orientation. Is it portrait or landscape? Which way would make more sense? You can also adjust scaling if you need to and just say, make it all fit on one page. You can adjust your margins. You could add a header. The one that I like is being able to turn the grid lines off and on. Maybe you want to be able to print a spreadsheet that has those grid lines because maybe you're like that example that I gave earlier of here are all the posters that I have to make and all the website graphics I have to make. I can print that off. It can be sitting at my desk and I can just make check marks in the columns because I'll be able to see all those grid lines as I go. So check out printing options. Okay, I think this might be my last one, so we're not too far behind on time. Another great little tool that I like in spreadsheets is the Countif function. I'm just assuming that if you've worked with spreadsheets before, you probably already know a lot of the basic functions like adding, maybe making an average, but not everybody knows about the Countif function. And that can be great to help you total up responses, like if you did a survey or in a registration situation where they got a variety of things to choose from. The Countif works great. And as you can see, anytime you make a formula or a function in a spreadsheet, you'll start out by typing in the equals sign, and that's the key to the program that you are going to be making a function or a formula. And in this case, the next thing you would type in is Countif, and then contained within parentheses, you're going to select the range of cells. A lot of times it might be contained within a single column or a single row. In my example here, we're selecting everything from cell F4 all the way down to cell F200. And that's your range of cells to choose from. Then you'll put a comma, and then within quotation marks, you're going to put in the words that you'll be totaling. So let me give you a real-life example of this so it makes more sense. On the summer registrations, I'm going to switch over to the story time tab. And as children registered for story time, what they did was in the survey or the little online form, it would ask them which story time they wanted to register for. Was it Thursdays at 3:30? Was it Tuesdays at 10:15? Tuesdays at 9 o'clock? We had like 5 different story times that they could choose from. So at a glance, it wasn't always real easy to tell, okay, how many kids do we have signed up for this particular story time? And so this little pink section that I made is for the story time totals. And so we could easily now at a glance see, okay, 15 kids signed up for the Tuesday 9 o'clock story time. And this is where I used the Countif function. So I'm going to click on this number 15 so that you can see my formula up here in the formula bar, and you can see how this makes sense. So I used Countif, and I was totaling everything in column L, which is the story time column. Everything from from row 4 all the way down to row 370. I just made a really big number because I wasn't sure how many total kids we'd get signed up. And I didn't want it to stop calculating midway through. So big range of cells there. And then I said, what I'm looking for is anyone that said Tuesdays, comma, space, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. You have to make it exactly match what would actually be in that column. And so everybody who selected that story time then got totaled. And if we switch over to the next one, oh, let me just pick a different one. I'll pick a Wednesday one. You can see my formula is pretty much the same. I still have the same range of cells, L4 through L370, but this time my words have changed to be Wednesdays, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. And so it would take that whole column, and it's kind of dividing it out now and saying, okay, these are the kids who registered for this, these are the kids who registered for this. So the Countif function can be a great way to kind of help you pull out certain information, organize it a little bit more, and see what that is. I did the same thing on this patron information survey that we had sent out. I'm going to open this one up in Google Sheets real quick so we can take a look. All right. And down here below row 9, this is where the actual original results of the survey came through. And then I added a few extra rows up here at the top where I could do my calculations so that we could get my totals up here. And so you can see down below that when they came through from the survey, the responses were actually quite long. Let me make one of these columns bigger. We can see. So they came through with things like, we always collect this. Let me pick one that has maybe a few more varied options. So either we always collect this, or it's optional for the patron to give us this information. Or we never ask for this. And so up at the top then, I was able to do a Countif function for column D, and it was we always collect this. And the number that said that was 139. In this one, it was in the parentheses, or in the quotation marks, optional for the patron to give us this. And so that was just a way, without me having to go through and manually count and possibly make mistakes, because this is the thing, the spreadsheets don't mess up, we mess up. And so spreadsheets can help us with accuracy in things like this, where we want exact counts. And so I didn't have to trust myself to make sure I was counting up all the always and all the optional and all the never correctly. I just had to make a simple formula, simple Countif formula to make that work. So yeah, that's my last little tip. I do have a handout that I will send to Krista so that she can post that hopefully somewhere on the NCompass Live website. And
Absolutely.
it will have all of these tips written out for you. And I think there might even be a couple of extras.
That's cool. More the better. Yeah, we can post the handout. Would that be like instead of linking to the slides because it has all of that in there, or we want both?
I think it'll be instead of the slides.
Okay, sure. So it'll have everything you saw today, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So does anybody have any questions? Nobody typed anything in while you were speaking. I was just paying attention, learning a lot of cool things like the turning the text sideways in the column headers. That's gonna. I love that one.
Yes.
And the counting up of things and the sums, I've done that before. But the Countif, I had not realized that that was a thing that I could kind of get a little heads up. Usually I make it do the actual sum or the formula. It's nice to, if you don't really want, I guess, the total on there somewhere, you just want to know what it happens to be. That's like a little preview.
Yes, yeah. Or if all of your information is in one column and you just need to kind of separate out if it's this thing or if it's this thing, and the Countif can be really nice.
So if anybody has any questions, type them into the questions section of your interface. We'll wait a few minutes here to do that. As we said earlier, we did start a little late, so we're running a little late officially, but we'll still be about an hour looking at the clock here. So that's perfect for the archive and everything. As I said, it has been recorded and will be posted there by tomorrow, for everyone to get a hold of. This is oh, we have a comment here coming in, great. Someone says, I use Excel a lot, and yet there were several tips I didn't know. Thanks, this was very helpful. Yes, me too.
You know, and that's the same with me, is like, I was a longtime Excel user, and until someone just showed me these things, I didn't know about them either.
And it's like you said at the beginning, and I agree, there's just so much in there. It's such a, Excel and even Google Sheets, it's such a, complex program, so many things in there you can do, much of it stuff that we don't really need, but there's still some hidden gems and great things in there that you should know about and be taking advantage of just to make your day easier, or just making your working with your Excel easier. I mean, some of us have to work with it anyways because it's being used by other people for things that we need to do, but some of these little tweaks of how to just work within it just will make it like speed things up so much better. Let's see, we do have some of the things coming in. It says, thank you, wonderful practical tips and guidance on general concepts for ways to use spreadsheets. I've not used, many people are saying I'm an old hand, but I didn't know about the Countif. You always learn something new. But now I have not used Excel or Google Sheets much, but I think I can based on the info.
Good.
Awesome, yeah, don't be afraid to and we did a question, which I think you might have shown this, but I'm not sure if it's as similar or not. How do you color code tabs in Excel? Oh, that's different. You color coded the headings, right? You showed.
Oh, we did color code. Let me switch over here. Down the tabs down at the bottom for the worksheet.
There, yeah.
And that's a matter of clicking on the little arrow, and it will bring up this this menu, and then you go to change color and just select whichever color you want. Now, if you wanted, I did not show how to highlight headings or change the color on those. So let's just say that this row of months across the top here, if I wanted all those to be on a bright yellow background, I could click on row 1, go up here to my little paint bucket, which is the fill color, and choose a bright yellow, and voila. If I just needed to do a small section of things, maybe this group of Nebraskas, I could highlight those, go back to that paint bucket and pick, oh, we got to pick red, right?
It should all be red, yes, of course.
And not only maybe the black doesn't show up real good on red now, you could highlight those and go to the text color and maybe make it white on red.
So, much better, yeah.
Little tools up here in your toolbar, and all of the same tools that you would have like in word processing for making something bold or italic or changing the font size. All of that is available in spreadsheets as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that carry over between all those programs that Microsoft made. They all look the same, and the same thing with Google. I mean, it's a good setup to start with. So yeah. All right, what do we have here now? Thank you for your helpful tips. I'm new to Excel. Oh, you send a cheat sheet of automatic voice. Okay. She does want, you said you didn't show this, but she does want to know if you could show how to do formulas. How do you add and subtract?
Okay.
And if that would be in your cheat sheet by any chance, or
you know what? I will make sure it is in my cheat sheet that I'll send. But yeah, if I wanted to, let me just delete a couple of these so that it's not so long. Let's just say I wanted to add up this column of numbers. One way of doing it is just making a formula that would start with equals. Yep, there we go. Equals, and then sum, S-U-M, and then within parentheses, I'm going to put in the cell name of the first cell, which would be E3, and then I'll put in a colon and go down to E, let's see here, what would that be, 12, and finish up with my ending parenthesis, and then press enter, and my total now is 110 for, let me highlight that here, for this column of numbers. So adding is equals sum, and then within parentheses, your first cell and your last cell. And there's other ways, and I'll put that in my handout.
There are some that are I know with Excel, some that are programmed in that you can choose the formulas at the
yeah,
in there, yeah.
You know, you can also kind of move things around. Like, let's just say I wanted to take this cell, which is A10, and I want to subtract cell E3. So you can also just do equals the cell name minus or plus, and then another cell name, and then finish that one off, and that's correct. 16 minus 2 is 14. And so you can just do simple things like that as well, where you just put in the cell names. And the nice thing about doing it that way is because then if I go back here and this number 16 changes to number 26,
it'll redo the math because the formula is there, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's an active formula, yeah. Great, yeah, that it'll keep on.
Same with this one, this 110 total. Well, if this number 2 changes to a 20, then my total down here changes to 128. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah. And some details of that we'll put into the cheat sheet too. Yeah. Here's a question. Wants to know, can you merge information from one sheet with another sheet?
I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at, but I think you know, you can take like a total from one sheet and you know, start with that on another sheet and work with it. You can reference from one sheet to another sheet. If you're wanting to merge the two, it'd probably just be a matter of like copying and pasting your information from one sheet to another sheet. But yeah, I can make sure that that information is in the handout as well, as far as referencing another worksheet.
Let's see here. I'm just looking for. All right. She says thanks. Yeah. And we do have another question that I think I was just trying to look on our archives here because we had done this before. Hang on. Yes. Okay. Someone wants to know, how do you do registration online that goes automatically to the spreadsheet? Now, that has to do with using Google Forms to then feed into here. And actually, Megan did a session on this, on using Google Forms for your library last October. So
find that webinar archive.
Huh?
Find that webinar archive and
right, yeah. In order to do that, that's good. That's a whole nother workshop, a whole nother session. But we did it last October, so I will send that link to everyone. It's just Google Forms for your library, and that she was talking about polls, program registrations, planning and meetings. So a whole separate session that she did for us about just specifically Google Forms. This one being more about Excel and spreadsheets. So I will send that link off to you so you have access to that one. And that does have, I'm looking here, the recording, and there was a demo website you had at that point. Is that still out there? Let's see.
I think it might be. I'll double check on that.
Oh, it's clicking to something. Yeah, yep. Something you did from the Southeast Extravaganza. Yeah. All right, we'll include a link to that Google Forms then, because other people are asking for it too. I'll include a link to that recording in the archive for this one. So everyone will have a link right to that one, because they do work together. It does make sense to kind of know about them both, yeah. Ooh, good question. This isn't something that you can answer. Wants to know if there's been we've done a show on Google Analytics. I don't think we have.
That would be a good one.
I'm not sure if that's something you know about, Megan, or not, or if that I could, we'll see.
I'm not an expert, so maybe find an expert.
Google Analytics, yeah, we will look into that definitely and see if we do a show on that. Okay. And now someone has a question about anything about pivot tables.
I don't really work with pivot tables. No.
Yeah.
Provide information about that.
Mm-hmm. No, not yet. Yeah, but we can do topic. We're always looking for topics for the show, of course, and trying anything like this that people are saying you guys want. That's this is good info. I'm going to take down all of your comments that you're putting in here. I will have access to afterwards. So we will definitely work on getting some more topics on. This is obviously a very popular topic as well. This one was our Google Forms one. So we'll get some more on expanding into what you can do with Google and Excel and other services like that. So thanks so much for the freezing panes tip. I use that one all the time too. Now that once I discovered that, I received spreadsheets from people and they've done that, and I was like, that's awesome. How do I do that myself? I need to, because that is scrolling is not, and losing all of what are these columns when I'm looking at a spreadsheet of 200 libraries. Yeah.
Definitely helpful.
Huge time saver. Yeah. And so I just want to thank you so much. There's been a lot of helpful information. Great. All right. I think we will wrap it up. We probably are at about an hour now. I'm guesstimating. Anybody have any last minute desperate questions you want to ask? You can type it in now. Otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up. Megan is available at Seward Library for any questions you may have. We will have her cheat sheet available, the recording of the Google Forms show that we did before, along with this archive as well. So thank you so much, Megan, for being with us. Sorry you had all the technical issues.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we recorded well, though. I think no problem. Everyone just relax and we'll get there. I hope your computer comes back to life or someone figures out what to do with it or what happened.
Otherwise, I'm budgeting for a new laptop.
I mean, yes, that might be something you have to talk to your, this is one of the library's computers? Yes. Ah, talk to the director. All right. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. I'm going to pull back presenter control to my screen now to show. There we go. There we are. All right. So as I said, this show's been recorded and it will be on our NCompass Live page. If you go to our main page, which if you just Google NCompass Live, so far we're the only thing called that out there on the internet. So you should come to our main site here where we have our upcoming shows, but right underneath them, we have our archive NCompass Live sessions. They're just in date order, the most recent ones at the top of the list. This is the one from last week, a book talk. So the link for today's show will be up here. The link to the cheat sheet that Megan will be sending me there, and I'll put a link to the archive session that I mentioned before. You can search our archives here. We do have NCompass Live. This is the 10th year of the show. Excuse me. So we do have a lot of archives here. You can search the most recent 12 months or just all sessions if you want to. So for example, if I search for the most recent year's worth, and I think if I put in forms, it should come up with, let's see, is there anything that had the word forms in there, which is pretty broad, but here we go, Google Forms for your library. That's the session that I was talking about that we will have a link to in the archives for today's show. So you can search in our archives for anything if you want to. As I said, this is a large list here. If you do search all of them, it will go all the way back to the beginning of the show, which was January 2009. We are librarians, so that's what we do. We archive things for historical purposes. So all of our shows will always be on there. So do keep that in mind when you are looking at and watching any of our archives. Look at the date. They all have a date here, so you can see when and what year these were actually broadcast live as. So some of the information might be old. Some of the services we mentioned might no longer exist or have changed greatly since we did the live show. So just keep that in mind when you are watching any of our archives on here. And as I said, the archive should be ready tomorrow. You guys should all get an email from me letting you know that it is ready to be viewed. So hopefully you'll join us next week. You're all invited to us when we find and we fix connecting a community at the library. This is the Parchment, Michigan's Community Library. Teresa Stannard is the library director there. They started out a great program working with anyone in the community about finding and fixing any problems. They host meetings to help identify and solve any issues that are going on in the town. She's going to tell us how they did that. And she'll be on with us remotely next week for that. So please do sign up for that one and any of our other upcoming shows. I've got a couple more I'm working on for September, so keep an eye on the calendar here as I get those things finalized. Also, NCompass Live is on Facebook. I've got a link here to our Facebook page, which I've opened over here. So if you are a big Facebook user, give us a like over there and you'll be notified when we have new shows coming up, when our recordings are available. This one here's a reminder to log in on the fly to today's show if you didn't register for it ahead of time. So definitely, if you are using Facebook a lot, like us over there and you'll get a couple of notices a week from the show. Other than that, that wraps it up for today's show. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Megan, for being here. Good luck with your computer.
Thanks for having me.
And hopefully we will see you next time on NCompass Live. Bye-bye.